men or women, that have had sex with a man with an abnormally large or abnormally small PP. What was the experience like? Dude had a literal cone-shaped penis. Too big at the base and too small at the tip. The experience looking back was the worst. I was young and naive. Like trying to have sex with an upside down ice cream cone. Abnormally large fellow dislodged my IUD, was temporarily crippled by the pain, and had to go to the DRs to make sure it hadn't perforated my uterus. Wasn't exactly what I'd describe as fun. I've never been one to care about size. My ex was on the way smaller side, but that wasn't his downfall. He refused to listen to what I wanted, and thought he was a said god. Any suggestions about what I wanted were met with anger and arrogance. My fiance now is one of the biggest I've ever been with. We have to be super careful in certain positions or he'll hurt me. Luckily for me, he listens to what I like and takes it easy on me. I lost my virginity to someone with a 9-incher. He was the epitome of having a big dong doesn't make you good in bed. Didn't try to turn me on. Didn't do anything but jack them until he finished. Couldn't even find my spot the one time he ever tried. All I really remember about that set is the overwhelming, displeasurable pain of having him punch my cervix with his penis. He used his size as a reason to not really try in bed. He never gave me opportunity to warm up, and even though I thoroughly enjoy super rough set, he just thought ramming it into me over and over was the way to go. Lack of warm up and him just thrusting hard like no tomorrow left me sore and angry. Not the good kind of sore either. My cervix hated me when I was with him. Had set with a big duck guy. It was simultaneously the most boring and painful set of my life. He wasn't a big dude, so the blood it took to power this thing left him dizzy. He pretty much just laid there while I tried to figure out how to fit this terrifying doom cannon into my body. I gave up after about 10 minutes, then he cried. Also had set with a small duck guy. I could only feel it in certain positions, and he was very sensitive about his performance, so he didn't take suggestions well. We didn't last long. Had a couple hookups with a guy whose duck was about the same size as my index finger. We only did blue jets, but holy shit. It was like someone trying to make me throw up by sticking their finger down my throat. I have had both. The large one never learned that a majority of the population do not like getting harpooned like a dolphin within a few seconds. Like go slow and use lube if you have to. Lube isn't just for an owl. I can take a decent amount, but when they hit my cervix I have to tap out for a bit. I'm a big woman, so the small one I felt only grinding against my spot. Didn't feel the penetration, but he was persistent and lasted a lot longer than the bigger guys. Also he gave me more attention and pulled out toys and all kinds of fun stuff, whereas the bigger guys were all about instant gratification and skipped foreplay. In the end, size doesn't matter to me. I was with a guy who wasn't very well endowed. We were fooling around, and he asked for a hand job. I went to put my hand around, and found that my hand was larger than his fully erect penis. Similar to many others, couldn't feel it when he put it in either. Had to tell him to stop about halfway in. Not fun when terrified of injury. We were in our 20s, he was a smoking hot virgin. He met a woman who could enjoy all he had to offer, 26 centimeters, not long after our attempt, and FB says they are still together over a decade later. I don't even know if what we did qualifies as set. He looked at me with a terrified, "Are you okay?" look on his face, and was met with my freaked out expression. Fun to look at, scary to experience. Was with a smaller dude. Like others here have said, felt nothing. Pretty sure most of the action was him grinding against my inner thigh. We were young and didn't really know what else to do outside of just basic set. Nowadays I would ask for more attention, because regardless of size, you can still have good times if there's other foreplay and fulfillment involved. And I would assume most men go crazy at the thought of a woman giving them more info about what they want, so the good times can roll for both parties. He was a good dude and an attentive boyfriend. We broke up due to being long distance. I don't regret it, and I'd never make fun of a guy for the size of their sklang. It's not the duck that makes the man, it's the willingness to be an open and loving partner. Edit. A few people have asked, it was really small, bordering on micro. So trust me, when I say I mean what I said above. In all other aspects the guy was funny, caring, and great to be around. We stayed together for a good while, and did only break up, because there were more than a few states between us, and when you're that young you don't really have the money to travel very often. I was with a dude who had a peen like a large deodorant can. One night we were doing the dance of the beast with two backs, and he must have bashed my cervix one time too many, and I began to faint. I realized what was happening, and tried to make it to the bathroom, not sure why. I thought I'd been pretty speedy, but turns out he had had to shepherd me along the 5-meter corridor, because I was all over the place, literally bouncing off the walls. I didn't even know he'd followed me. My roommate came out of her room to find me completely naked, passed out on the toilet with my panicking boyfriend trying to bring me round at about 1 AM. I eventually came round and kept frantically asking him to bring me my slip. He didn't understand. Bring me my slip. My slip. I was frantically trying to cover my bits and bobs with my hands to maintain some level of dignity. I wanted my nightie and had never called it my slip in all my days. I was so confused. The end. A co-worker of mine was talking about sleeping with a guy who was almost the size of her Comcast television remote, for visual reference. This is appropriate, because Comcast is definitely a big prick. Anyway, she said she tentatively touched it like Indiana Jones with the golden idol, and jiggled it about experimentally. It made a THP sound like a water balloon, and it was so visually striking and distinctive that she wouldn't have been surprised if it had talked or sang a song. In the end, she incredulously asked him what he was planning on doing with that, and had to frankly tell him she didn't think that was going to happen. Been with both. Large, like being repeatedly gut punched, because a dude had no idea what he was doing. I'm pretty sure childbirth was less traumatic on my cervix. I'm not a size queen. Small, actually really good. He had the plus of being relatively girthy, and he knew how to work with what he had. It wasn't deep penetration, but that didn't detract from anything. The angle he got was great for more stimulation, which was great. My husband was small. It never mattered. It was great and made BJ's much easier. He passed years back. I began dating another guy, and he was long and decently thick. I could hardly walk. He had to be careful for a long time, because it was painful. I got used to it. He wasn't as attentive as my husband, so the set wasn't as good overall. BJ's were exhausting, and I gagged a lot even with taking precautions with my hand. Overall, I enjoyed both extremes. I loved them, and that's what mattered mostly. My shortest ex was actually the one with the largest penis. I don't know an exact side, but he had a very wide girth, and was still decently long. We would have to use the vibrator on me first, because it was thinner, in order to stretch me out enough that he would fit without hurting me. At the time, I thought it was really good set, but now I'm with a guy that I know I'm going to spend my life with, and turns out the big duck guy wasn't as good as I thought. Now boyfriend is still decently long as well, so I'm a happy girl. Large. Has its pros and cons. You have to be 150% up for it to remain naturally wet enough. Pray he doesn't have good stamina, because you're going to have a difficult time keeping up the lubrication and the muscle exertion otherwise. If you're not totally in the mood, it's not going to happen. You cannot take a large one if you're not totally aroused. Blue jebs were the bane of my life. I used to be an avid giver, but now I hate them. You can forget any hope of an owl. Be prepared to be sore the next day and to wince when you sit. Small. Also has its pros and cons. I couldn't feel much, but what he lacked in size he made up for in enthusiasm and willingness. When he did hit a good spot I was so into it that the size didn't matter. Dude was loving every second, and so I did too. Blowjobs are easy compared, so he thinks I'm a set goddess. He can't hit my favorite spot, and I do really miss that, but there's a reason I'm with this guy, and not with the one who could. Bit of advice here lads. Either if you are truly blessed, lacking in length, or just about right, go down on the lady first, and get her rocks off, before you go working your way in. After that if it's big, you'll fit the gig. If it's small, it won't matter at all. Maybe 8 inches in length, but about 1.5 inches thick. It hurt my ducking jaw, and almost dislocated it more than once. But it was a lot of fun. And I felt proud when I fit all of it in. What I have learned from this post is basically you need to know how to use it, and that hitting the cervix hurts like heck. Nice to be informed, we'll try to remember this. Okay. That is the video. Please like and subscribe, or else I will cry. Goodbye.